rock climbing in the Philippines. What is a ladyboy bar too, if you like. And we were talking in the last one about, you know, we had identified that there were two groups which had been measured. And as I say, this study, They Chase Us Like Dogs, is the only study of that kind I've ever come across in Southeast Asia. That actually defined people by the age of onset. It's absolutely fascinating. And that wasn't what they were looking for. They didn't expect to find that. They were surprised, and I spoke to them, one of the researchers, and said, well, it's not that surprising, but he didn't know anything about the Blanchard typology or any of that. So we'll leave that to one side. Ladyboys are unmasculine males. There is a kind of a, you know, amongst the group that would call itself Baklas, for example, you get long hairs who, and that's what most Westerners think when they think ladyboy. They think a male, but he looks like a woman. They don't all look like that. There's another class, and sometimes they're called short hairs. I've discussed this before. But they're also, a local word for them is Badaf, B-A-D-A-F. Right? And that means, this is a gay. This person is very gay. You're going to watch the mannerisms and you're going to go, ah, yeah, I cut you. But they'll wear boy clothes, they'll wear something like boy hairdos, they probably won't have anything really masculine in the way of job, but they're not, you know, you won't find them out, not normally anyway, and during the day, with long hair and a dress. Well, you might at night, because a lot of them will just swap. Oh, I can't wear that kind of stuff at night, during the day because of my work, but when I go out at night, I get the wig, I get the dress, high heels, some makeup, bingo, you've got a total babe on your hands here. It's not that difficult. I've seen it done, and it is remarkable how, you know, a slightly built boy, you know, who hasn't really masculinized at all, can just turn himself into a beautiful girl in no time. And you go, excuse me, I hope the people that you dally with know what the fuck is going on here, because they're going to reach in your pants to get them. Oh, what's this? Unless anybody has other ideas, quite a lot of them are pretty well endowed. Believe me. Anyway, I mean, I don't use it, but I have seen them. Anyway, these kind of, you know, they sort of around the circle of obvious Baklas, you know, and the same happens in Thailand, it happens everywhere else. But there is another group, and I think that this is a really important group, and it's one that is almost completely unstudied. Dr. Neil Garcia, I think he's actually Professor Garcia now, a very entertaining writer, and you know, he's a real authority on this. He is himself a gay, and therefore, you know, but he takes a Western view of it. He, excuse the people outside, he identified this group that he calls, or rather, who call themselves Silahis. S-I-L-A-H-I-S. And that comes from the Spanish word, Silahis, which means a ray of light. Right, okay. So these people are like, oh, you know, these little rays of light walking through society. And some of these are basically Badafs. You know, they're short hairs. They're out there, they're pursuing men. If they're out there, they're looking for a guy. You know, and they're looking to be anally penetrated by that guy. But a lot of them are actually married with kids, and they're intensely secretive. You know, they're so secretive, we don't know how many there are. I mean, there have been real problems with this because, you know, the governments, not just in the Philippines, across the region, have been, for many years now, decades now, have been trying to promote awareness of HIV/AIDS, which, you know, has touched me, and I feel very strongly about this too. And these guys are like, well, this is a problem because we don't know who they are. How do we target information on them when they're sitting at home with their wife and 2 kids and going, oh, not me. Yet on a Friday night, they're out in a dress looking for a man to roger them. Do you follow? This causes a problem. I mean, it's not that I don't mind what they do. I certainly have no moral objection to any of this shit, you know. As far as I'm concerned, do what you like, as long as they've got consent and the other person is you know, old enough to give consent, then I don't care. Nobody's getting hurt, you know. Well, they say it hurts at first, but it gets better. Anyway, the Silahis are important because they kind of form a group that's very similar to a group that was well known in the West, probably still is present in the West. And you know, when I was young, you know, because I'm ancient, I'm fucking ancient, really I am. You know, they had these guys who they'd be outed. You know, something would happen. You know, the wife came home. This actually happened to a good friend of mine. The girl's you know, she's a fine lass. You know, she got married to this guy, Campbell, and he was into bikes, very masculine guy. So she came home one day and early from work, because she used to work for my mum, and it was half day, so she got home early, and he'd either forgotten it was a half day, or she didn't know, or what the fuck. Anyway, he's in the bedroom, dressed in her lingerie. I don't know how he got into it, because she's tiny, and he was a big guy, he's bigger than me, jerking himself on the bed, and she's like, and ran back to my poor mother. Oh my God, they got divorced. I mean, looking back, it's really funny. I'm sure at the time it wasn't funny at all. Really not. But that was what happened. I mean, that's men who were of that persuasion. They didn't make it known. They really didn't. They hid it. It was something that you didn't tell anyone. You know, except if they were in the group. And then when the internet came along, really in the 1990s, before social media, you know, social media, oh dearie me. Anyhow, sorry, I've got an itch on my leg, a mosquito bite. Social media. Anyway, it's there. We have to live with it. Social media, before social media, you had internet and you had discussion groups and chat rooms. And a lot of these were just text. But there were also some that were kind of a bit more organised, a bit more webby, a bit more of what we would recognise as having some sort of graphical content, you know. And this encouraged a lot of these guys to meet each other, because you could make contact through these sites, you know. And it could be like, well, you know, they sold, you know, I don't know, they sold bras with fake boobs in them, and you know, I mean, it's you know, outsized underwear, you name it. Birch Place was one of them. Yeah, I remember that. That was a long time ago. And it was full of these obvious guys in wigs and not very well applied makeup, but they used to meet up through this. And I think a lot of the reason that this kind of thing has become more evident, you know, we see it, is because of that people were going, oh, well, wait a minute, there's other guys. You know, there used to be this thing, you are not alone. In fact, it was a site, a discussion group first and then a site. It's called You Are Not Alone. Yeah, okay, fine, you're not alone. I mean, you're a freak, but you're not alone. Fine, there's loads of freaks in the world. Who cares? And that's very like the Silahis. You know, I mean, they must be aware of social media here. They must use it to go out. But the thing is that that type of behaviour is very much a middle class phenomenon here. And I'll talk about the class divide in another piece, because it's important, and a very good book which I'll quote from. I'll get to that, you know. These men tend to be middle class. They've got good jobs, they've got cars, they've got wives, 2, 3 kids, you know. I mean, Filipinos usually have lots of kids. They dress well, you know, the managerial positions, or they own their own businesses, and the last thing they are going to do is make it public that, you know, on a Friday night they put on a wig and some sexy underwear, and they go out and try and get laid. It's not the trying to get laid that causes the problem. There's really no taboo against sex between males in this culture. Everybody does it. Fred Whittam, he discovered this, it's in the 90s again, that over 70% of the men he interviewed here in the Philippines had their first sex with a bakla. You can touch the girls, so what are you going to do? A real cute little bakla over there, you know, and she's willing. She's definitely willing, so come on darling, let's go up the back street here and you can get your pants off. That's what happened. You don't blame me for it, I'm just reporting it. And so, you know, the thing is, when you live in a culture like that, when people are in a culture like that, it's a bit like, oh fuck, so what, you know? Big deal, so he bangs the Ladyboys from time to time, so what? But then, actually being one does carry a little bit of a stigma, because being penetrated anally removes all your masculine status. You immediately become a not man, which I discussed in the last one. As long as you're the one pushing, everybody's fine. Everything is fine. The problem for the Silahis is they dress as women, they go out, and if you dress as a woman and you're associating with men here, that means you want one of them to bang you. The idea of one of these guys, you know, picking up a woman and it's like, no, that's just, that's really US-ican, that don't happen here. But it would cause him some difficulty if he was a bank manager and it was found out that on a Saturday night he liked to go out and get railed. So they're incredibly secretive, and we just don't know much more than that about it. What we can say is there's a significant number of them. How many we don't know. Not known. But it's probable that the numbers are similar to what we find in the West. Anyway, that's enough for that one. Thank you and bye bye. I'm losing my voice.